And with that said, I want to pass this off to my partner, Eric. Welcome aboard, Eric.
Thanks, Rob. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of DeepRoots. Today, we have actually a very interesting show. We have the president and founder of Timeless Vapes, Josh Hirschey. Josh, come on in and join us. There we are. How you doing today?
Good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Yeah, excellent. You know, Josh, your brand is known to a lot of people in the industry that follow it very closely, but actually there's a lot of people out there that have not heard of your brand. So we're really looking forward into digging into your model today and understanding how you go to market and what the what the successes you've had in multiple states. So thanks for joining us. Before we dive into that, can you give us all a little bit of an overview of who is Timeless Vapes, your background, where you guys started, came from, and all that?
Sure, great. Yeah, no, thank you again for having me. Excited to chat with you guys in the audience today. Yeah, so originally the brand was founded back in 2010 here in Phoenix, Arizona, as a lifestyle streetwear clothing brand. So two of my business partners founded it. They had a screen printing shop in Tempe by Arizona State University, where they were screen printing their own Timeless brand and also other streetwear brands. And they had an early resale shop down on Mill Avenue, which is right in the heart of Arizona State campus. And they were doing really early resale of like Supreme and Vape and a lot of the big streetwear brands today that you can find in lots of different resale. The resale market now is huge. There's big apps around that. But back then, nobody was really doing that. So they created a very interesting collection and had it over there. And then in 2012, we were one of the early states to go medically have cannabis medically legalized, and there was some gentleman we knew up in the Pacific Northwest that was doing really early extraction. Came down here, showed my partners how to do it. So very early extraction, very crude oil, opening up e-cigarettes and refilling them, which seems super crude now, but back then it was revolutionary. Nobody had ever really even seen a vape. We believe we were one of the very first vapes in the country, cannabis vapes in the country. And the first dispensary operators here were just looking for things to put on the shelf, and so this was kind of a great new interesting product that consumers that was differentiated that consumers could try. And then over the next number of years, the team learned how to do. We always say you can't have a great brand without a great product, so the team really focused on the quality of the product. So very early learned how to do distillation. We were actually Jupiter told us the other day we were CCEL's first customer in the North America, so very early on with much improved, vaping hardware, transitioning from like the wick-based cartridges that didn't work that great to CCEL, which is now, ubiquitous in the industry. So really early on improving the product, but always from day one, wanted to take the stuff that kind of had learned from the streetwear culture side of the business and say, hey, how do these streetwear brands create this loyalty and this brand loyalty and really create a lifestyle brand? And how do we take some of those same elements and bring it to cannabis? So really early, we're figuring out how do we do a lot of the fun event marketing, the culture marketing, be a part of our community, collab with, these people that we grew up here in Arizona that we thought were really such a great part of the community and build our brands together. And, when we first started doing that, people were like, hey, you can't even make enough product for us. Why are you spending this time marketing? But I think the vision was, it takes time and consistency and authenticity to build a true brand and build a true lifestyle brand that people can feel loyal to. And so, we wanted to do that early on and create that long-term loyalty. And so very fortunate, the Arizona market has been a great market for lots of people, and we were early here and grew with the market and created that brand loyalty. And so when, our vision was always that at some point it's gonna, you either have people loyal to the brand or it's gonna become more of a price game, and we didn't want to do that. We wanted to create something that people cared about and were passionate about, and fortunate to do that here in Arizona. And then, as we kind of built our position as a top brand out here, said, hey, we think we have a great playbook and we have a great message and model that we can then expand out to other markets. And so we started moving in 2018-19 into new markets. Now we're out in 5 markets, and really same kind of structure where we say, hey, we want to be decentralized. We want to have really great local teams that can bring the brand to life in an authentic way and take our playbook that we we're successful with out here and work through a lot of mistakes out here on and bring it to them and empower them to really make it, bring it to life, make a national brand, but bring it to life in a very local and authentic way. So in each market we're in, we feel like we're part of that local culture and community like we really built here in Arizona.
And so here we are, December 23. how many states, what states are you in, and what does 24 look like?
Yeah, so today we are in 5 states. We've been operating in 5 states for some period of time. We originally launched our first state out of Arizona was Oklahoma back in 2018. We were one of the first operators out there when licenses got going, and then we did California in 2020, and then Missouri in 21, Ohio last year. So that's the 5 states we're currently operating in, and have been operating in for quite some time. And so we've had great experience in those states. A couple of them going med direct. Obviously, Ohio with the recent vote, we're still trying to, I think all of us are trying to understand what exactly that means, but obviously very excited about the opportunity with Ohio voters going rec. And so going into 2024, that's a big initiative for us, is making sure we're successful with that med direct conversion like we were in Arizona and Missouri. And then we also have 3 markets that we're currently building out and staffing up and getting compliance approvals for, and those will be New Jersey, Illinois, and Massachusetts, which we hope to launch all 3 of those in Q1, Q2 of next year.
Nice. The plate is full. So Timeless uses a I'd say very unique go-to-market approach, right? Most companies just do a licensing deal. Yours is much more comprehensive, and we're going to dig into that. There's a lot of learnings in that direction. But before we do that, I'm listening to you talk about lifestyle brand. Like, explain, in your view, what does it mean to really be a cannabis lifestyle brand?
Yeah, I think, again, when we look back, with the origins of the company, it was that streetwear brand, and that was like, hey, having great products and things that people love to wear, but also having those be a part of that culture and community that they came up in. So, collaborating with the local restaurants and having great events with the best local event spaces or the local restaurateurs. And so, every community, and as we've gone out of Arizona, we grew up here, so we saw a lot of what the local culture and the local community was like, and we loved it because we came up here. And I think, so that kind of came naturally to us, is like, hey, a friend of ours that's a great restaurateur is opening a new restaurant. Let's do stuff with them and build each other's brand together. Or an artist that we've known a long time is, they get creating great artwork. Let's use it in our cases, and then, build each other's brands together. I think as we started going out to other markets, it was really part of the fun was seeing how much and unique and interesting culture there is in all these cities we go to, whether that's Missouri or California or Ohio or Oklahoma or Illinois. Every one of these markets has such a great local culture and local community, and the people in those markets really get behind that. And so I think when we looked at that, we said, hey, cannabis it's just a part of it, just like the restaurants and the music and the art, all that stuff. That's a huge part of each community and culture. Cannabis is part of that too, and cannabis has always had, a local flair to it as well. And so why not take a lot of that stuff that we've seen successful creating those lifestyle brands and apply it to cannabis in the same way? So collabing, taking our brand and collabing with local people and collabing with local musicians and local artists and local event spaces and all that same stuff that you would see from other brands that are building each other up. We could do it the same way. And I think that to us is really building a lifestyle brand. And that means that people look at it as like, hey, a product that I obviously, a high quality product that I enjoy using, but also a product that's more than just the product. It's something that I enjoy carrying, that I enjoy wearing the merch, and that I enjoy representing, because I feel like it touches on a lot of the stuff that I care about in the culture and community I'm in.
I think it's fascinating that you developed a lifestyle brand from day one. Your background, your team's background was in building lifestyle brands. And so sometimes we overuse the word authentic, but in your case, I think the Timeless brand is, in that case, truly authentic. I mean, what do we have? We have Stizzy and Cookies, but I can't think of a lot of other brands that have kind of become lifestyle brands in cannabis. They're in, obviously a big opportunity there. But how do you communicate that? How do you market that culture in cannabis, given that, it is mostly the below the line marketing? It's not on Google, it's not in, so it's not above the line ad spend. It's really grassroots. How do you communicate and market this culture that you created?
Yeah, I think to your point, it's very grassroots. Like, we want to have great local teams in each market we're in, and we want them to, understand that market and understand the community out there, and then partner with the right people, and then get that message out kind of word of mouth. I mean, we absolutely use as many resources as we can to amplify the message. So, we are constantly kind of making sure that we're promoting stuff on our, Instagram account, for example, but we got to make sure it's compliant. So a lot of that, we've actually leaned more into the lifestyle stuff there because it's more, acceptable to the rules of Instagram. We've also focused really hard on building a big following on our newsletter network, because there we can kind of do whatever we want, and we have a very engaged and active audience. So any of the kind of social digital channels that we can, build up and then utilize to tell the story in a bigger way, we absolutely do. We've got a great PR firm that helps us get news releases out when we do these artist collabs. So, we're trying to, hit the bigger, amplify the audience here. But at the end of the day, our bread and butter is our blocking and tackling out in the markets. And that's having a great field team out there that knows the community, knows the culture, has great dispensary partners that help us amplify the message, and then, are doing things out in those communities. So events and inviting people to the events and having that word of mouth marketing is such a big key of building that kind of local feel to the brand. And then taking those things that are super cool and amplifying the message in ways that people outside of maybe the ones that were at that event or saw that collab can see it in a bigger way, and then be excited to say, hey, I want to go track down and either in these markets I'm already in, or I'm excited for Timeless to come to Illinois because I see all the great stuff there and the fun stuff they're doing out, in Arizona or Missouri, et cetera.
A lot of lifestyle brands that I, associate with and think about tend to skew younger demographic, right? And in your case, and cannabis in general, that heavy users are 21 to 35. Are you very focused on that very specific demographic, or can you break out of that demographic as a lifestyle brand when the meaning starts to skew towards, is viewed differently from a 55-year-old woman than a 21-year-old male?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, at the end of the day, we've been around for 10 plus years now, and so you nailed it. Like, the big demographic user is that heavy consumer between 18 and 35, and probably if you look at across the board skews more male. Of course, that's a big audience for us, and that's an audience that we've attacked over the years. But at the same time, Eric, as these markets have matured and we've gone rec and we've all there's new consumers coming in, we want to absolutely also be agnostic enough to tell the story to all the audiences, and whether each piece of the story or each piece of the lifestyle things we're doing fit every part of the demographic. We want to do enough and to be as diverse enough as we can to try to touch as much of the user demographic as possible. And I think, to build a leading brand in a state like Arizona or Missouri, I think the teams have done a great job of diversifying the message enough while still also targeting things that are authentic to us, right? Like things that we care about, things that the brand cares about, that the brand team cares about, that are, we give a lot of autonomy to the markets to say, hey, what are you guys passionate about? And let's build that in, because we want the teams to be passionate about the storytelling as well. But at the end of the day, I think we've got a diverse enough team now as we've grown that there's a lot of different voices that come in, and we tell a diverse story that, touches on the heavy consumer and the demographic that supports the industry a lot. And a lot of these new consumers that are coming in that are different from different demographics, different age groups, different, paths of life.
So we'll circle back to that, but I think it's important to have the reference point of actually your go-to-market strategy, because it is pretty unique. So just a high level, you're going into a new state. Explain to the audience, what is your go-to-market strategy?
Yeah, I mean, so we started out here in Arizona, as I mentioned, 10 years ago. And back then, the Arizona licenses, for those that are not familiar, are vertical licenses. So every license that was issued comes with one dispensary and one MIP and one cultivation. And, over time, there was certain operators that consolidated some of those, mainly for the dispensary assets, right? And so they had extra capacity on some of these other licenses. And I think it became fairly common here in Arizona to operate under other people's licenses and say, hey, we're going to use your license and use your ability to be compliant within the state laws, and then we're going to come in kind of under MSA agreements and operate and supply the people and the know-how to be able to make the product and then go out and actually sell it into the market. Again, all legally and compliantly under that person's license, but like I said, like a master services agreement. And so that we started that early on out here, and it allowed us to really control our own destiny on the product and the go-to-market and the telling the story and engaging that dispensary partner first and being the best brand partner we can be to them, and then engaging that end consumer at the end of the day and getting them excited about the brand and the lifestyle and the story, and getting them wanting to come in and get it off the shelf. And that was successful for us here. And so I think it was kind of second nature for us as we started going out that, hey, we've got a model that works and it's worked well for us, so why not try to replicate that in these other markets? At the time, the traditional kind of packaging license deals were very popular. And so we had when we first started going out, I think there's a lot of, hey, why don't we try it this way because this is what others are doing. But I think for us, again, that wasn't really in the DNA of the business and the DNA of how we wanted to operate. So we kind of stuck to our guns. And so as we started going to other markets, we found, license holders that were either utilizing the license but felt like they had extra space or extra capacity to help monetize it further, and felt like we'd be a great brand to help them do that and help them move product that they, biomass that they have, or in other instances, people that had won a license and just said, hey, I don't really want to operate it day to day. I want a team that can come in and operate it compliantly and be effective with it and be a great partner. So that's really, as we've gone out, we wanted to control our own destiny and, have a quality product that we can consistently be behind, and then really be able to tell our story and our brand story and our lifestyle story. And that's what we've done market by market, is go in there and really, work under these MSA agreements and be effective partners to these license holders to go out and build a brand.
So you've never been completely vertically integrated. You weren't growing anything in Arizona. There's no cultivation. But did you actually, did you do any extraction in your home market first? Did you become, because you mentioned, you have some relationships there. Was that part of what you did in Arizona to become an expert in extraction, or have you always just kind of focused on upstream, if you will, and just bought from anyone who was selling distillate and ready-made?
Yeah, no, again, obviously we want a highest quality product. So, and as I mentioned, Eric, when we first started 10 years ago, there was nobody doing extraction in the state, or if there was, they were not aware to us. And so we were very early in that for sure. And I think our team, was early pioneers kind of in extraction and then ultimately distillation and all the things that have, the product has come to today. I think as we, but again, I think being good, great operators is important to us. Being great understanders of the product is important to us, but also, building that brand and that lifestyle and that engaging the dispensary partners and being a great partner to them, like I mentioned earlier, and the consumer is the key to us. So, as we get into each market, we look at what the supply chain looks like. And again, obviously in every market, we're working with operators that, legally are procuring the material for us. And so, the extraction thing for us is still very important, but it's not, there's a lot of good extractors out there. And then can we take these products that, as the industry matures and becomes more CPG, and then can we add our finishing touches to them to make them unique to us?
Yeah. So for those that aren't aware, your core competency and out of the gate and your lead product is a vape. Obviously, you've just since expanded into some other areas. Pre-roll has been successful for you. But when you go into a new market, then as a leading vape brand, you're looking for a licensed partner that also can, has supply chain relationships. But really, you're just kind of operating just like you did in the early days of Arizona, operating under this person's license. What do you bring to the market, and what do you rely on that this licensed partner needs to have for you?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a collaborative relationship and it's different market by market. But at the end of the day, we want to bring an expertise on making our products, right, and making them to an SOP that we are confident in. And so I think depending on each operator is a little bit different, and each licensed partner is a little bit different. But at the end of the day, we want to be able to bring our teams in and show and work with them to make sure that the end product that's coming out of the facility with our team is meeting our SOPs, meeting our quality requirements, meeting everything that we, again, feel we need to be to have a quality brand. So like, if you don't have a quality product, like I said earlier, you can't have a quality brand. So we bring that expertise to make sure that for the timeless products, we have, we're bringing out the utmost quality of whatever we're going to do. And then secondarily, I think what we bring is the relationships to be able to open the doors and the know how to open the doors with the retail operators, which is such an important part of what we do, and be a great partner to them. And then lastly, how do we really bring the brand to life in an authentic and local way, right? And that's kind of the playbook and the building out of the front end and the back end teams to make sure we're checking all those boxes. But that typically, we want a partner that we can have that back and forth with and make sure that we're all doing the right things to make the end product successful. And that means successful from a quality standpoint, and that means successful from a getting it on the shelf standpoint, and most importantly, the successful for engaging that consumer and getting it off the shelf.
Yeah, so you have, I think it's interesting, you have a licensed operator in a state, Missouri, what have you, and that's your core partner, that's what enables you to do business there. But then you have another partner segment, which is the people that you hire with local domain expertise that have those relationships with retail and know the market and can execute a lifestyle brand go-to-market strategy. So you actually have, even though those people, I guess, like, they become employees at some point, right? These people, right? So the vetting process of selecting, you're selecting two different things. Which one goes first? Who do you find the licensed partner and then try to find the people? You find the people and then say, wow, this is a great person. I want to go find the license and keep going to this market. Or is it just kind of a simultaneous? What's that selection process look like?
Yeah, it's a little bit of simultaneous or depending on the market. I mean, I think as we've gotten bigger, our network of people has gotten bigger. So, that part kind of ties into that. But at the end of the day, like, we don't need local operators until we have an ability to launch locally. So, though we might have people in the orbit, and as we've gotten bigger now, as we start to expand, we have people that we, for example, as we launch Massachusetts, our head of sales from California, who's been with us a while and really knows the brand and the playbook and the how to go make it happen in the markets, has been great. He grew up and is from Massachusetts, and so he's going to move back for us and launch that market. So there's more opportunity internally, but we do want it to feel local, but we do also want to support and grow our teams. But at the end of the day, I mean, Eric, we have a decentralized model, and the local team and the local general manager is so important to our success there. And so, that vetting process kind of works hand in hand. If we feel like we're confident we're going to be moving forward with a licensed partner in the state, and we're going to want to launch the brand in the state, then we really start working on vetting that local employee. They are employees of the company, but we're very trusted and empowered employees of the company. And then we say, hey, let's go out and work together here's the playbook, here's the things that we know have worked, here's the things that we know didn't maybe work so well, and you can learn from some of our mistakes, and then let us empower you and support you and give you the resources you need, especially from the brand, like from all sides. We have support back here at corporate to help make sure the operations are running smoothly, and the product is made to the certain SOP, and we're going to train you up and give you the playbook, and then we're going to help support that playbook and ultimately hold them accountable to the results. But we think that empowering those local teams to be successful is so key to bring the brand to life, and then also make the business a healthy business in each one of these markets.
Timeless has a good reputation, but it also a reputation for being profitable, being a well-run, well-operated, profitable cannabis company. Yet when you move into these markets, each market, when you're front loading all the headcount, right, that's capital intensive. You're spending money well in advance of catching up and being profitable. And just give us a sense of like the financial requirements to move into a new market, and how you think about cash flow break even, when that should happen, what success means when you're obviously spending quite a bit of money up front on getting really good people that can help you scale up.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, each market's a little bit different, Eric. So we look at it like, hey, what is the opportunity, the size of the market? How do we hit the ground running? Do we have like great distribution out of the gate, or is it a slow build up on distribution? But ultimately, we look at it as a business, and we're funding this growth, and so we want to make sure we're very thoughtful in how we grow. And so, we're excited to go in these new markets, and now that we've done 5, we kind of have a playbook on that too, to say, hey, what is the right amount of people to start with? Because we don't want to go and create a huge deficit that then you've got to really be desperate to accelerate the sales and maybe in an unhealthy way to try to cover this overhead. So we think we have a model, and we think we have a support system, with the corporate teams and whatnot to help support a new market, with a good team there, but a very lean and mean team, and a team that can go start executing, and then we can build it as it comes, right? And we work really closely with our leaders in each market to say, hey, let's put a few key team members in place at first, and then as we see the success, then we can keep adding team members, and we have a really good model and a good structure for how we think the team should look in each market, with the general manager, and then building a sales manager and a sales team eventually, and building a field marketing team right out of the gate to be out there engaging that consumer and being in the store and off premise engaging the consumer, and of course, operational support to make sure the product's being produced in a high quality, effective way. But we don't ever want to get out in front of our skis and just say, hey, we're launching a new market, let's hire 100 people, and then try to figure out how to make it profitable. We want to say, hey, how do we take this and take bites out of the elephant and start with a lean team, and then get the sales going, get the consumer engagement going, and then continue to add resources to that team to continue the momentum going and keep the growth going. But we're not doing things we're trying to run it as a get to profitability as soon as possible, while also being very effective engaging the market and the consumer.
I talked to a lot of brands, and everyone's trying to raise money these days, and the logical question is just, well, what are you raising money? What's the use of funds? And I need to expand to new states. I got to expand. I'm raising money to expand. You guys have never raised money. Maybe back in day one there was some contributions, but you guys have all done this on cash flow. That that's the lesson from day one, I guess, is like get to profitability, be a well-run operation, and then, but don't bite off more than you can chew. But it must be, you mentioned you're launching in Massachusetts, Illinois. What was the third state in Q1, Q2?
New Jersey.
Yeah, New Jersey. Those are big states. I mean, that cash flow analysis and break even and all that must be, you guys must be totally on top of that to make sure that's tracking.
Yeah, we absolutely focus on, how to make sure we're operating effectively and efficiently and capital efficiently, and we have for a long time. So I think it's part of the DNA of the company, because we didn't, we kind of bootstrapped it from day one, and my partner started it with some, selling some of that merch that they had collected, some of that Supreme stuff, and, selling that and putting that into the cannabis side of the business. But, over time, I think it was in the DNA of the company. We're going to operate efficiently and lean. And as we've gotten bigger, we've learned how to do that better. And we've brought in, different talent from different places. But at the end of the day, we want to make sure that's a core part of the culture and the DNA here is like, hey, we're all entrepreneurs here, and it's all of our, we're all building this together. And so let's be very focused on making sure we're successful and spending the right amount to make sure the brand is getting that great image, but also not overspending and not, instead of doing huge things, maybe trying lots of things that are, effective, but don't need to be this massive amount of spend. And so I think we've gotten really good with a playbook standpoint on being able to do those things and saying, hey, you can make a lot of impact without these huge amounts of spend, and we can help support, from a national level, now that we have multiple markets and we have a national brand team that can help support and spread this expense and support these markets as they new and get going. But yeah, ultimately, like we want each region and each general manager to look at it and look at their own P&L and say, hey, I want to run this effectively and incentivize them accordingly, so that it is a healthy business across the board. And to your point, sometimes, when we first started going out in 2019, when capital was not anywhere near as scarce as it is today, it was free flowing. People were taking lots and lots of money, and then that puts a gun to their head to go do something with it. And sometimes you don't make the most effective choices when you have a gun to your head to try to create hyper growth, right? And for us, this has already been a long game of 10 years, and we believe building a business takes time, and that's part of the authenticity and the time and the consistency. And so I think in all these markets, we want to be successful out of the gate, and we want to be a top brand in every market we go to, but we want to do it in steps and do it the right way and build that long-term loyalty.
Yeah, so you're very much going to a new state. You're very much forward, focused on the retail chains and consumers, and you've got a lot of below the line marketing strategies. And you mentioned decentralized strategy. Can you, just to be clear, what's decentralized about your strategy?
Well, I think, some of the background I came from, I was at some large public companies that ran a very decentralized model very successfully. And I think in cannabis, when we looked at how cannabis works, by its nature and the legality, right, it's decentralized. Like you don't build one factory in one place and then ship it across the country. You have definitely some national retailers like the MSOs, but you also have a lot of local retailers. So and then of course, like the lifestyle component of it is very, local for us, at least that's how we've looked at it. So I think when we kind of sat down and looked at how we are going to expand, the decentralized model, was something that, we were comfortable with from our past experience, but B, it seemed like it fit very, very well in the cannabis world. And so we looked and said, hey, we want a national brand. So we're going to have a centralized brand team that's going to create the look and feel of the brand, provide the air cover, provide the resources and tools for the markets. But at the end of the day, we want the markets to take these things and bring them to life in a local way. And also they have to make sure the products coming local, all the products sourced locally with our license partner, right? All the store relationships door to door. Now that we've created big national relationships with the MSOs as we've gotten bigger and created very great, strong partners with them. But still, at the end of the day, a lot of the blocking and tackling is done locally. So I think, we looked at it and said, hey, it is a local business already. It's already in the kind of the DNA of cannabis is local. By the federal legality, it has to be local in a lot of ways. And also the success we saw in Arizona was because we were very local, and we want to create those same successes with a local feel in these markets while creating a national brand. And that created this decentralized structure, which is, hey, we're going to have support out of corporate. We're going to have certain centralized things like brand, and we're going to, of course, have like finance and legal, very like the high level stuff. But at the local level, we want the markets to be super empowered to have a team that can bring the playbook to life in a way that is successful to them, and then they can be held accountable to those results in a local way versus having all this, hey, I was waiting for somebody at corporate to make that decision or tell me what to do here. It's like we want to empower them to be quick movers.
Let's talk a little bit about the partner, and I'm talking about the licensed partner. I think in cannabis, I'm sensing that about 50% of the selections of a partner fail in cannabis. You seem to have a slightly different model that I would argue that maybe because you're controlling more of the forward facing components, the sales and marketing, which is where a lot of people fall down, you might not have such a heinous percentage success rate. But I think when you talk to partners and when you're exploring a new market, I'm sure one thing you do want to hear from them is that local domain expertise, where they might say, well, Josh, that works in Arizona, but that's not going to work in Missouri, right? And what goes in those initial meetings and dating and finding the right partner? What are you looking for? Because it's not just, yes, I have supply chain, but you bring a lot to the table, but what is it that is meaningful for you to hear from a partner that says, I like the way they're talking? Maybe you got to vet it out, you got to do your due diligence, but these are the things that we also talk about. What are those things that you're looking for in a partner that makes you think that, okay, this relationship could be successful?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, it is like, you date them and then you ultimately, are getting married when the partnership is, consummated. So I think we want to make sure that the partner has a like-mindedness, a cultural like-mindedness, and a vision for what we're trying to accomplish and what they're trying to accomplish out of it as well. And I think setting all those expectations out of the front, out of the gate, of this is what we want to bring to the table. This is what we believe success looks like. And let's understand what what you want to bring and what success looks like. And if it's not aligned, I think we've, had a lot of opportunities in launching more states than we have today, but we didn't want to go in there with an expectation that what couldn't be met from either party, and so we've had a lot of tough discussions with various groups that, didn't work out, and not because we didn't like the people and not because we didn't think we could be successful in the state, but we just didn't have the aligned vision of, what success meant like, or what we felt was the right structure versus them. And I think that's okay, right? I mean, not every relationship lasts or makes it to the marriage, right? And a lot of them don't. So I think for us, it's really just finding good people that we feel like we can trust and that are a good cultural fit with us, and really understand the vision of what we want to do and what we think, or what we want to accomplish and what success looks like, and vice versa for them. And then I think, like anything else, when you go into a partnership, you have to be able to go back and forth with each other, and there's going to be things that come up throughout the relationship. And if you have good, open, honest dialogue and good trust with each other, and ultimately both parties are seeing success in the way that it was defined at the outset of the partnership, then you're going to figure out ways to work through it, right? I mean, anytime you go into these things, you do the agreements, and that's an important part of it. But at the end of the day, like, we always say, if you're pulling out the agreement and arguing over points, the relationship's probably not in a great place. You should be, if everybody's being successful, you're going to find solutions to things that may come up that either party has, challenges with.
So one of the biggest debates in the industry from brands that are moving into new markets is the profile of the partner. For example, there may be a vape brand in Massachusetts that has supply chain. They have cultivation. They're vertically integrated. Might even have a few stores. And now they're looking around saying, well, we have excess capacity, and well, why don't we? We've got a sales force. Let's find another brand. Let's take some other brands to market. Get the machines humming. Make some more money. Others are like, I'm just a co-packer. That's all I do. I got a license, and come on in. And I can work with you, but you handle everything else. Do you have experience in both models, and do you have a preference?
I mean, we have the model that we're very comfortable with, and for all intents and purposes, Eric, we pretty much stuck to that. There's other brands that have been successful with other models, and and our model doesn't necessarily fit with all. It absolutely not necessarily. It doesn't fit with all operators. So I think that's part of the process of the vetting process, right? Is here's how we want to operate, and here's how you want to operate, and does align. And if not, then there's probably a different partner that might be a better fit for you, And we have consistently, I mean, we've tried a little things here and there, but we've consistently stuck to our model, and we've worked to find partners that are comfortable with that. That doesn't mean that we haven't tweaked things here and there, of course, based on state requirements or based on partners that we feel very strongly about, that we want to, find ways to make things work. But at the end of the day, we want to do what's in the best nature, like what's in the nature of the business. And so we've consistently stuck to that. That doesn't mean, again, that there's other brands that might be a great fit for that model that says, hey, I have a facility and I want to make it and then go sell it and do all that stuff for you. That's great. That's just maybe not great for us, where it's great for others.
Your slight preference to just more of a co-packer model than partnering with another brand that has a sales force, because you're bringing that and you don't want to compete with their product. You know, when they're walking in the door, their eyes gravitates towards their brand. Oh yeah, and then there's Timeless over there. We better sell. I mean, you have a preference towards the co-packing model where you come in and control your own destiny, frankly.
Yeah, we want to have our teams in there that are supporting them from beginning to end, so that making sure the product quality is coming out great, and then at the end of the day, making sure that the sales and the field marketing execution is great. And that's no, you know, and there's certain partners that don't have any of those, or don't have limited functions in a lot of those areas, so they have no issue whatsoever. And there's other partners that have a fully built out. I mean, we're in a couple of states with partners that have fully built out brands of their own, and you know that they go out and they move their brands, and we go out and move our brands, and hopefully at the end of the day, you know, or not hopefully, it's a win-win for both of us. But yes, absolutely, I think that focus is so key, at least in our mind. Like, hey, having a team that's focused on, because what we do is so locally based and so storytelling based, you know, we want to rely on our team that is 100% so focused on, you know, bringing our brand to life in a way that's effective from the beginning to the end to the consumer, right? And so again, that doesn't mean that other people haven't found success in other ways, but for us, that's been such a key part of what we want to do, and we've stuck with that.
So how does that translate with, obviously every market's different, and you know, you're not going to share specific details of your revenue share or whatever you call it, but what are the key factors that do go into determining how you split the pie with your partner, licensed partner, not your GMs and employees? But what are the key things that go in determining the revenue share, and what are you negotiating? Because you're not really negotiating a royalty fee that you're going to be paid. You know, that's different. You're a lot more heavy lifting. You're controlling your own destiny. That logically one would suggest that you're taking a slightly bigger piece of the pie than a licensed a brand that's just following a licensed strategy. But I think the key is, what are the components that you're negotiating in your model with the various licensed partners?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, we're negotiating like I said at the beginning, the key is finding a partner that we, you know, are comfortable and excited to work with. And then B is finding a model that works for both of us. But to your point, we do bring a lot to the table. So absolutely, we want to make sure that we're fairly compensated for all the things that we're bringing to the table that might be different than other models, right? So you know, without getting into super details on all the different negotiations and structures that can be made, because every market, like you said, is different, but we have a pretty consistent, model that we want to bring and pitch to each market. And so we have kind of worked through and said, hey, what we're going to bring to the table, this is what we think is fair and what we think we need to be able to be successful, and this is what the end result would be for you guys based on what we've seen in the past. And you know, and there's bunch of different ways to slice that, but like I said earlier when you were talking about how do you find the right fit, I mean, I think we want to be very clear up front. This is what we're looking for, and this is what we're looking for to be successful, and vice versa. This is what we think that means to you guys, and then you guys got to decide, does that mean success for you guys and you as the partner? And then if we all agree, then we move forward, and if we don't, then you know, it's not a right fit as a partner. And so I think for sure, if we're going to bring more to the table, we have to be make sure we're getting our piece of the pie, but we want to make sure at the end of the day, at the end of each year, they're happy with their results of the pie as well for what they bring to the table.
So their core accountability in the relationship is, of course, they have a license and that they manage their business in a compliant way. What else? I mean, supply chain, like how involved do you get? Like, because at the end of the day, they might be a strong partner, but you know, it's cannabis. And do you feel, are there times that they're saying, hey, I can't find any live resin right now, or what have you? Like what are they accountable for, and how often do you have to get involved in doing some things that perhaps you hadn't considered that you'd have to do?
Yeah, I mean, we go into it considering we're going to do a lot, so we're under that impression, right? And again, if we don't have a product that meets our standards, then we're not going to go sell it, and we're not going to be successful with it. So we're going to be active with them, and it does depend varies market to market. But we're going to be very active with them in all parts of the process to make sure that together we're procuring the right material to meet the demands and meet the quality that's required, and then making sure that we have product to go put on the shelves. And then if we're doing our job and it's flying off the shelf, that we're replenishing it, right? And that's running a successful business kind of end to end, you know. every market's a little bit different about how we work with the partners to achieve those results, but we're operators, right? So we want to be involved and a key part of each part of the operation. And that we believe that's what makes, consistent sales happen over a long time, right? If the product quality, even if you have a great brand and the quality is not consistent, and we've seen that from others, you're not going to be successful with the brand, right? So you got to make sure A, they have enough of the product, and B, that the quality meets what your standards are, and then C, that you're out there executing to get that consumer to go get it. And I think we go into every relationship making sure they understand we're going to be there for all parts of it and support the process, and that they're and with that expectation on our side that we're going to be heavily engaged in supporting the whole process.
It probably, I'm guessing that's part of the decentralized model, right? Because if you're going into a new market and you're looking for a GM, it sounds like the core capabilities of that GM that you're looking for to run the market is, again, forward-facing, retail, consumer, branding, marketing. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're an operational guru that knows supply chain. Do you manage some of the supply chain issues in this decentralized model from Arizona with a team, and then leave the marketing and really focus on hiring the right GM and team for the forward-facing things that, are more sales and marketing oriented?
Sure, yes, absolutely. The GMs spend a lot of time on the front end sales and marketing wise, because that's such an important piece of the brand. But we want a GM to be well-rounded enough to understand all parts of the business, because, again, the GM's job is to make sure that he's hitting all the goals for the market that he's set. And if if the product is not there, then it's impossible to hit those goals. So we want the GM to be well-rounded enough to understand all parts of his business and to manage his P&L. And 100% do we have people, that is going to support him both from corporate and locally in his markets to achieve those goals? Yes. And we're going to give those people, train those people, and give them the tools to be successful and support them out of here. And, if things arise, go out and, we go out to the markets quite a bit and spend the time with them to fix those issues. But at the end of the day, yes, the GM is very front focused for sure, because you can't have a business unless you have product that's selling and product that's then the consumer is getting excited about the brand and engaged. But we want them also savvy enough to understand the back end. And as we've grown, and as others have grown, you can create more national relationships from a supply standpoint. But ultimately, at the end of the day, because each one of these things is happening in a local market, you have to have the local teams engaged with, even if we go say, hey, we're going to work with a national, a group that is cultivating in many states nationally, we can work on those relationships. But at each market, which is so unique about cannabis, right, you got to have that local negotiation, because the cost structures in each market are different. The supply chains in each markets are different. And we think having that national team that understands the big picture, but also understands how to work with a local team to make it effective in a local way is key.
Yeah, makes sense. The thing that occurs that I think about when I hear you talk is that you're a lifestyle brand. Lifestyle brands are not value brands. Lifestyle brands are typically the higher end of the market, right? Does that result in you maybe being slightly less concerned about product market fit in terms of analysis of like, where do we need to price, who's in the market, and all the data and analytics that go into the front end around product market fit? Because you're a lifestyle brand, like, it might be as much as, where's the high end of the market? Obviously, what's the cost of distillate? Where's the high end of the market? And we have obviously an immediate focus on playing up in that range. And yeah, you'll refine it and you'll tweak it. But in terms of, what you're trying to build, does that suggest that the lifestyle brand might be a little bit less focused on trying to find the optimum price point for a certain product to move it? Because you're trying to create an environment where someone comes in and be like, you got Timeless? Because I was just skating and my buddy was wearing a shirt and said the brand was awesome. I don't care. I'm not even asking about price. How do you manage that?
Yeah, look, I think we know we have to be competitive, but yes, our belief is if you're building an aspirational lifestyle brand and you're engaging that consumer in a fun and consistent and authentic way, they're going to come in and pay what is a fair value for your product. And that is, you're not selling specifically on price, right? You're selling, if you're creating a real brand, look at other walks of life, like people pay a premium to wear, Nike Jordans. That there's other good quality shoes out there, but they believe in the brand and they believe in what the brand represents. And so I think ultimately, if you're going to build a real, lifestyle brand and a brand that people care about, then you should be able to get a premium on that. And obviously we're investing to build all that lifestyle there. So yes, when we go into a new market, like I mean, we do market research, Eric, to say, hey, what are the competitors at? Who's selling the best? What are the high-end price points? What are the more aggressive price points? But our goal is not to be the price leader in any market we're in, because we're investing to build that local brand and that local authentic, community and culture engagement. So, but we also want to make sure we're competitive. We can't be, outside of the market. And at the same time, we also have to do the analysis to make sure even if we're at the higher end of the market pricing, can we still make money with what it costs to make the product and what the material costs and all these different, pieces of the puzzle that go into the cost of making it, and what our piece of that is. Can we still be a profitable business afterwards? So we definitely have to say, hey, what are the different price points in the market? Who are the leaders in the market? How can we fit in that leadership category, as we grow the brand out there? And then can we be successful financially with all that being said? But yeah, we're not coming in and saying, hey, we need to be right at the low end. And so how do we, grind the cost down? Even though we ultimately want to be a successful operation, you want to get your cost as lean as possible, but while producing a high quality product, and having money to invest back in that brand building, because that does require capital and financial commitment as well.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about the term that everyone throws around, scale, right? I mean, let's start with the markets, right? There are certain markets that have achieved scale. Arizona has achieved scale. California has achieved scale. And obviously, some of these markets actually kind of go through a little bit of a bell curve where everything's, everyone's living large, and then the price crashes, there's oversupply and whatever, which translates into a wobbling market share for brands that you can be, get to a point you can drop, you can make mistakes, all that, right? So it's a roller coaster. We understand that. But in terms of when you get to at what point do you look at a market and say, all right, we did it. We've been in this market 2 years, 3 years. We've achieved scale. What does scale mean to you? All right, let's start there before we define it. What does it mean to you that you've achieved scale in a new market?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think we're always, trying to understand better what scale means, and whether it's in a market or in cannabis in general, right? I think that's one of the kind of interesting and exciting things about cannabis is there was a pre-existing market that I think people had guesstimates on of the size of, but no real understanding of what it was. And now you're pulling those traditional consumers and now new consumers into this legalized market. And so I think everybody, and that's why you see a lot of these kind of supply chains ups and downs, is because nobody really knows what the end demand is in the market, right? And so you build it, and then at some point in these more mature markets like California, Arizona, you find out what it is because you keep building it until you hit that wall, and then most of the time you've gone too far, and then you got to back it off and figure it out. Whereas a lot of these other mature CPG industries, right, they've been doing it for a long, long time, so they know, very consistently what the max demand is across the country and what the annual growth is and all that. So I think cannabis is going through a unique time, which is part of what makes it fun of figuring out, like, hey, there's this huge market out there, people that consume for a long time, and now we're bringing them over to the legal market, and there's new consumers, and what is the right amount of capacity? And when you have to put capacity up in each state, that's always, it makes it even more challenging, right? And I think that's what every operator is trying to figure out right now. For us, scale is like, can we be a leader in that market, and are we building a leading brand in that market, right? And obviously we, subscribe to, and again, everything in cannabis is somewhat new, right? So we subscribe to some of these data services, and we're trying to get that data to say, hey, for the market, for whatever the market size is, have we created a leading brand there? That means we're executing in an effective way, because we got people that are coming in and choosing us, to go home with and use. And so I think that for us has always been the calling card, is like, hey, how do we, build up and make sure we're becoming an effective brand in every market we're in, and then we can adjust the scale of the team to be successful no matter what the size is. And I think, as we've gone through some of these medical directs, and we started out in a medical market in Arizona, we had to live through that, right? Which is like, you're going to build the team is going to be the size to survive, but be successful. And that was back to what we talked about earlier. And then as the sales and the success grows, then we can add more team members, but we always need to be flexible and conscious that if things slow down, that we have to be able to run a successful business. And, I think we're always cognizant of that. And so scale in one state to another can mean many different things, but we just need to make sure we're building our structure and our teams and our support systems to be able to handle whatever that scale is, with the ultimate goal of we want to be a top brand in every state we're in.
And so let's hypothetically, not a hypothetical, you are a leading brand in Arizona. I don't know, vape, you're top 3 in vapes in Arizona. Does that set a challenging bar in moving into new states? Like, hey guys, like there's no reason why we can't be a top 3 brand in Missouri or Massachusetts or what have you. Is that a, I mean, scale ultimately, do you define it by your market share? I mean, is that where you get as an owner and a founder get comfortable? Is it all about like where are we in the slot? And if we're not where we need to be, top 3, we're gonna keep tweaking the model, but B, maybe also increase the resources in that state because it's easier to get from 8 to 3 than it is to get from 3 to 1. Or how do you think about that?
Yeah, well, absolutely. I think that, building a top brand here in Arizona, but we've been at it a long time here, gives us the confidence that the model has legs, right? And that we can be successful with it in other markets. And I think now doing it in a few other markets and building a top 3 brand in a place like Missouri or a place like Oklahoma has continued to build that confidence level within us. I think we also have to be realistic that, these things take time. So, we want to make sure, especially if we're doing it in an authentic way, not just maybe a price driven way, or that we need to give the teams time to bring the brand to life in an effective way. And we've lived through that in a lot of these markets. So I do think we go in with that kind of mindset to say, hey, our goal is absolutely to be a top 3 brand or a number 1 brand in the states we're in, but we got to do a good job of getting the right team in there to accomplish that, do a good job of getting them up to speed on the playbook, and then really supporting their ability to bring the playbook to life. And then over time we want to see them continue to rise and rise and rise, and if we have hindrances to that, let's talk about what it is, and work through those. But I think having that initial success of building a top brand in Arizona gave us the confidence in the playbook. And then ultimately, now that we've been successful in replicating it a number of times, it gives us more confidence that the model can work if we bring in the right team and we give them the right support, and then they have to scale according, like I said. Then the great thing about the decentralized model is that they have to put the scale in place to be successful, but also make it run like a business.
Yeah. So we're coming towards the end. I think it's always interesting to ask, like, what kind of mistakes have you made along the way? Well, if you're looking back, it's been a journey. You've gone after a few things. You've been successful, but like, what were some of the hiccups that occurred that you looked at and say, "Dang, if I could have that one back"?
Yeah, I mean, we made a lot of course, this is 10 years, right? So we've had a lot of successes, but a lot of failures too. Like I said, we've been fortunate never to have to go too big on. We've always stayed kind of consistent, never too big, so the failures don't kill us. And I think that's part of the DNA, and the culture of the company as well, is to try things, but not try them in such a way that it could destroy the company. And so, but I mean, first and foremost, like the people is the most important thing to the whole company, right? The people we have, the team we built. And so I would say we've absolutely gotten better and better about how to define those right people and bring them in and really let them understand the culture and how we're going to expect to work with them. And we've maybe made some mistakes in the past about not being as clear as we needed to be, or not really. And I think that's part of the maturation process of any company, right? Is defining the structure, defining the goals, defining the DNA of the company, and making sure that the people you're bringing in totally get that, and that you guys have spent time vetting each other so it's a successful partnership and a successful employee, right? And so we've made mistakes, and I think you can sometimes get sucked into, you bring somebody in, they're promising the world about getting you in all these doors or something, and that doesn't always mean that that's the right person and the right fit for you. And we've had success with lots of different type of people. But I also think for us, one of a big thing is focus, and how do we focus on something and be as best that we can be at it. And I think as we've grown, we've said, hey, we've been really successful with the Timeless brand. Let's launch a lot of brands, right? And we can be successful with lots of brands. And I think we were able to, and again, we were methodical in it. Like, let's try it in Arizona, where we have a good customer base, both from a dispensary partner side and an end consumer side, before we do it out in other markets and kind of work the kinks out. And I think some of those processes made us realize, hey, part of what made us successful is the focus we had on Timeless, and that now we've grown so we can have some other brands, but trying to do everything and be everybody, makes none of them successful. And so we had to, we went through and created a bunch of brands, and then I think we whittled it back and took a deep look and said, hey, Timeless has been super successful. Here's why. What other brand do we have in the portfolio that we can put that same level of emphasis behind to make it successful too, before we keep launching the next brand. And I think in cannabis, there was early on a lot of, by the nature of the business, like, let's launch tons of brands, or let's launch tons of different product categories, and without building a real, success case around them and defining what success is, and then putting the capital and the resources and the time and the money and the effort into each one of these brands to build them out as a brand, you're not really creating a true brand. And I think that was a big one for us, is to continue to remind ourselves, hey, let's go back and focus on it one thing at a time and try to be successful at that before we move on to the next thing.
Creating a true brand and a lifestyle brand. You guys are very focused. I'm sure you're a very desirable client for a licensed manufacturer. I can see why they would be selling you the world of their capabilities because of what you guys have delivered in the past. So obviously a lot to step through and figure out as you go into these new markets. And it's going to be fascinating. This year is, I think, a big one for you. Moving into, you dealt with California, so California can be a bit of a model for Massachusetts and Illinois that are slightly, they're larger, more mature, more established. So it's going to be fun to watch, Josh, how you move into these markets in 2024. Hopefully we'll have you back on in a year to discuss your successes in 2024 on top of 2023.
Well, appreciate that. Yeah, we're excited about what we have coming in 2024, and we're excited about the team we're building out here to help us execute on those plans. And appreciate the opportunity to come on and spend time with you, Eric, and your audience, and talk about what we've gone through. But it's been a fun ride, and we're looking forward to a lot more fun. And I know the industry can have some crazy dynamics, but it's I think it gets in your blood, and people really fall in love with it.
Great, Josh. Thank you so much for sharing the Timeless Vape story. Kudos to what you've accomplished, and excited to see where it goes from here. So thank you for joining DeepRoots. Folks, we'll be back in a month with, I believe, Groom, and hear about their story. And so come on back in 30 days and have a great holiday, everybody, and Happy New Year. And thanks again, Josh. Great story. And we're a big fan over here. So cheers, folks. Thank you, and good day.